So I don't even know where to start with this thing. I have wanted a Destroyer 2 for a while, but not just any Destroyer 2. There's actually very particular models that I feel like are a little bit better than the others. Now you see these every once in a while out in the wild, but typically you see like a DT50, which was a bolt-on neck version of this, as well as the DT400, not a DT300. These were never intended for US markets. These were released in Japan. So anytime you see these for sale on Reverb, they're always in Japan. You almost never see the DT300s available in the States. But I found one. I found it. Okay, so let's go back to 1981. Oh, what's this? Guitar Player Magazine, 1981, with a mighty fine looking DT400 on the cover. We'll revisit this here in just a second because there's some cool stuff in here. So the Destroyer 2 was released in 1981, which was of course a result of Gibson telling Ibanez, yeah, that Destroyer model that you're making, a little bit too close to our Explorer. And it was. I mean, it was pretty much a copy at that point. Famously used by Eddie on Van Halen 1, his Destroyer, which became the Shark guitar, which then he hated, and he never played again. Now, the two biggest Destroyer 2 players were, of course, Phil Collen from Def Leppard, and I believe he was even using them, you know, prior to joining Def Leppard, back when he was in his band called Girl, and then, of course, Adrian Smith from Iron Maiden. So they made him sound pretty good. So they came up with the Destroyer 2 and kind of changed a little bit of it, and I think actually made it better. I do prefer this to my Gibson Explorer, which I'll compare them here in a second. The layout of this is much better. So when you see them side by side, you'll be like, oh, okay, that layout kind of makes more sense. So these are fantastic. Now, in 81, these had an alder body. From what I can find online, you know, like I said, those of you who know more about these, please, you know, correct me if I'm wrong. But in 81, these came with an alder body, 3-piece maple neck, rosewood board. By 82, it was a basswood body, maple neck, I believe, rosewood board. And then they didn't actually make these anymore. So they might have made different versions of the Destroyer, but the DT300 kind of ceased to exist. And this one is pretty beat up, but it's so awesome. Okay, so let's compare this to my Explorer that I have. Now, I'll give you some tone samples here in just a second. You know, that's totally subjective at that point. Like, you might like the Explorer more, you might like the Destroyer more. The Destroyer is way snappier than this one, and the Explorer is kind of big and chunky sounding. If you see them side by side, you're like, oh, they're pretty similar. And then you really look at it and you're like, oh, they're not. The Destroyer's laid out completely different from the Explorer. So let me show you what I like and what I dislike. So if you look at an Explorer, the toggle switch is way down here. Now my issue has always been that when I'm sitting and playing it, if I lean forward at all, or move the guitar at all, you hear that? Listen. I hit that switch with my leg, and I bump it into the middle position instead of the bridge all the time. That's always been an issue with an Explorer with me. The other thing is your control, control central here, your volumes and your tone are so far away from you. You're playing, what do you have to do? Take your hand completely off the guitar. Forget which volume is which. Is it this one? Oh, nope, actually this is the one that I want. Come back to playing guitar. Well, on the Destroyer, if you look at it, it's laid out much better. The knobs are facing the opposite direction. So on an Explorer, they're facing this way. Destroyer, facing this way. And your hand's right here. Boom, hit the volume, turn it up, turn it up. If you watch the recent Les Paul video I did about how much I use my volumes, I am constantly rolling my volume up and down little bits at a time. And that's a big one for me. So outside of that, I mean, like comfort-wise, they play very similar, as in like how it like rests against your body and all that stuff. That's not really a difference. But those things alone, I was like, okay, this is good. And then this one's so much snappier than the Explorer. I liked that a whole lot more. And of course that comes down to pickups and stuff, but you know, let me just play them for you real quick. You tell me which one you like best. All right, let's continue our time traveling back to 1981 with this old Guitar Player magazine. Now, I got to give a shout out to my buddy Steve from Boston on here, because he's the one who told me once I got this Destroyer, he was like, there was an old Guitar Player magazine that they had a Destroyer on the cover that was all about MIJ guitars and everything. Sure enough, as always, Steve was right. I found it, and I had to get this thing too because I thought it was so cool. And but let's just kind of see what was going on in 1981. DC Koa. I'm really bad at turning pages apparently, so we're probably gonna skip around a little bit. Sure. Oh, Distortion 2, was that new? Check that out. Guild, check that thing out. Yeah, look, here we go. So, like I said, very fascinating to read all this stuff. These cool old pictures from in the factories, them working on guitars. I wish they had more pictures. There's a lot of writing and stuff in here, but you can see the stuff over there too. I'll give you guys close-ups. But check out this old carving rig. You know, I really feel like Ibanez does not want you to know about these because they're so good. You know, man, Ibanez in the 80s was just making fantastic guitars, all made in Japan, crafted so well. Now that they're not making great stuff today, Ibanez still makes killer guitars. I've played a lot of new stuff and it's all really good. These are special, and prices are going up on these. You used to be able to get all this stuff super cheap, not so much anymore. Word is getting out. If you find one of these DT300s, I'm telling you, snag it. You will not be sorry. It is a phenomenal guitar. What a well-made instrument. Like I said, it's to the point where I'm like, do I get rid of my Explorer? Because this thing, it's the way to go. All right, gang, so there you have it. What'd you think? Did you think the Explorer sounded better or the Destroyer? Like I said, there's just this snappy twanginess to this thing, and I don't know, maybe that's the maple neck, the alder body versus all the mahogany that the Explorer has. I mean, who knows? Maybe tone wood's not a real thing. Who knows? But what I do know is this thing is awesome. I'm telling you now, if you ever come across a DT300, snag it up. These things are only going to go up in price, and they're only going to get cooler. So with that, said and done, I'm going to go play this thing some more. This has been the only thing I've been playing for like a month. I've been dying to make this video. There were just some other videos I needed to make first, and I'm like, come on, I want to get this video out so this can be like the mainstay that it's been. Just, I mean, I don't know how many hours I've already clocked on this thing, but it is such a brute of a guitar. So anyways, Ibanez Destroyer out. I'll see you all later. Bye, homies. Woo!